Hello folks, I'm Andy Larson, local food systems and small farms educator for University of Illinois Extension. My colleague, Mike Rogie, and myself were tapped to be the voices of experience for this presentation on thinking beyond the first year. Mike and his wife have 20 plus years of experience growing fruits and vegetables. My wife and I have 2 years of experience raising poultry. So, even though I'm narrating this thing, rest assured that most of the content herein stems from Mike's experience, even more so than mine. The main thing that we're attempting to do with this presentation is to re-emphasize points you have already heard several times throughout the course of this Beginning Farmer program. These are the ones that we think deserve a second mention, because you are going to be facing these situations probably sooner than you think. We're going to be talking about your income goal. We're going to be talking about labor and retaining that labor. We're going to talk about growing with your experience, reinvesting in your farm, marketing and market development, and what to do in the face of adversity. And these are just going to be short points for you to take home with you as you begin to farm. Let's begin with your income goal. It's important to have a realistic income goal, an actual number, not just as much as I can make. We need to be honest with ourselves. At some point, it may not be worth it to farm anymore, given your opportunity cost. Your income goal sets your guidepost. It keeps you in reality, and it helps you to determine your marketing mix. And it's the number from which almost everything else can be back calculated in your operation. For example, how do you decide how many row feet of carrots to plant? Well, how much profit do they yield per unit at different marketing outlets when you include all the costs? And what proportion of your total revenue stream must the carrots account for? If you need way more carrots than you can actually handle growing in order to reach your goal, you either need to modify your production, modify your marketing, or modify your goal. Your income goal needs to be in a practical ballpark, and it might be useful to see what different sizes of farms contribute to their household incomes nationally. In the National Ag Census, if the operator reports being retired or having a major occupation other than farming, the farm is classified as a residence farm, and that's those farms on the left. 36% of residence farms have a positive farm income, but only about 7% of their total household income is coming from that farm income. If the respondent reports that farming is a major occupation and they are not retired from farming, the farm is classified as quote-unquote intermediate. Intermediate farms, about half of them, have positive farm income, but still only producing about a quarter, a little more, than of their total household income. Commercial farms on the right are those that produce $350,000 or more in gross cash farm income, regardless of the occupation of the principal operator. As you can see, many of you will likely fit into the first two categories for quite some time. Consider what proportion of your family's income will realistically come from farming. Then set your income goal to make the effort worth your while. Those who wish to make even a substantial part-time income from vegetable farming often need hired labor to generate sufficient revenue. So, in all likelihood, you're going to need to hire help. And it will probably be something you do sooner than you expected. Honestly, there aren't always enough hours in the day. Plus, when you're just getting started, it's a lot easier to pay someone for a few hours of labor than it is to invest in the infrastructure or the machinery necessary for you to do the work efficiently by yourself. How do you know when you need to hire someone? Well, make sure you're keeping good records in order to determine which crops are actually making you money. It makes no sense to pay a person to pick a crop that's going to lose you money anyway. If a crop or enterprise is in the black financially, but you could be generating either additional revenue or additional cost savings if you had another set of hands, then it's likely worth your while to hire some help. Know exactly what you're hiring. Many of you will likely at some point get a neighbor kid to water the high tunnel while you're gone for a weekend, and then pay him cash under the table. You might also hire a neighbor farmer to help with soil preparation or fertilizer application. But if that person is providing the equipment and the expertise for doing the job, they're a contractor, not an employee, and they should invoice you for payment. But as soon as you are looking to hire regular labor for regular times over the course of a growing season, and to whom you are providing the direction in their work, you're really bringing on an employee. Use good standard hiring practices like withholding taxes, Social Security, and insurance. Hiring good help is hard. There's no question about it. You have to remember, even though your dream is to farm like this, you are in the minority. You will not have local kids or even local adults falling over each other to do what they often consider stoop labor. You need people with stout constitution and strong work ethic. And it's often hard to tell who these folks are until you have them on the job. You might even want to institute a review policy or a probationary period for new, longer-term employees. That way you both have an out if the working relationship is not actually working after a specified period of time. For those you have determined to be an asset to your operation and worthy of continued investment, there are a few things you can do to keep those good workers around. First, you need to provide them a decent wage. And decent really varies. It varies by geography and it varies by responsibility. Consider their opportunity cost. Could they be making much better, or at least easier money, simply flipping burgers? Going pay rates depend on where you're located, what kind of responsibility goes along with the job. If a person that is moving from basic farmhand on up to farm manager, give them a pay raise that's indicative of their increased responsibility and decision-making authority. It might also be wise to use a payment system that incentivizes good performance. For example, paying by the piece is very common for short-term employees in hand-harvested agriculture. You could consider that. You could also consider maybe an employee gets a bonus for exceptional performance at a farmer's market, like a certain percent of the sales, or every dollar above a specific sales target. Working conditions are a tough one. Farm workers are going to be dealing with dirt, mud, manure, heat, cold, rain, wind, flies, mosquitoes, hard physical work, and often unruly customers, just to name a few. Still, at the very least, you should provide proper equipment and procedures with good ergonomics so that no one gets hurt laboring on your farm. Have good sharp tools with appropriate length handles, appropriate size harvest totes so that people aren't handling too much weight, and easy access to water, restrooms, a place to cool off, that kind of thing. I mean, look at the picture. Have you ever tried loading fresh, stringy mulch with a flat-bladed shovel? It's terrible. It's super hard work. It's the wrong tool. You need a silage fork or something like that. Make sure people have the right tools. Also, provide a positive work environment, and make sure that includes both constructive criticism and ample praise. Smile when you come out to meet your employees early in the morning. Tell people you appreciate their work at the end of a long day. Give feedback that can help people become more efficient, and never expect someone to do a job that you wouldn't do yourself. You have to lead by example. Finally, if an employee is worth keeping for the long term, that generally also means they are worth investing in. Take the time to teach them the best way to do things and how you came to that conclusion. Talk about your decision-making process, even though it's going to take you some time to do that. Perhaps you can give them full responsibility and decision-making authority over a particular crop or a particular market. Having additional ownership and agency in their work will only make people stronger forces for profitability on your farm. You will hear many people tell you to start small and grow with experience. The best way to know whether vegetable farming is really your calling is to do it. But before you start buying land and tractors, you might want to try your hand at it in a way that is a bit lower risk, like on someone else's farm as an employee or an apprentice. See what you're good at, see what you like to grow. Identify production and marketing efficiencies that can make the farm money. It's good practice. Try your hand at marketing and record keeping. And identify niches in the marketplace that an enterprising beginning farmer like yourself might be able to fill down the road. When you do actually strike out in your own, start at a scale that seems manageable for your current skills and infrastructure, not to mention your pocketbook. It's much better to make your first real mistakes at a scale you can recover from. Beginning farmers are generally short on capital and long on labor, so rent land, borrow machinery, put in the time and build sweat equity. Work on building your skills, building your marketplace, and building your brand all at the same time. Focus primarily on the crops you know you are good at growing and selling, and experiment with other ones on the side. You might want to keep your town job or your spouse's town job. When you do decide to go full-time and put your money where your mouth is and grow your farm, but your banker is still trying to decide whether your farm is a worthwhile risk in the absence of a lot of years of historical financial data, well, they're going to want to see that regular, reliable income stream you can fall back on in the face of adversity. Reinvestment. As you continue to learn and grow and keep records and make decisions, you're going to notice inefficiencies. Things that are too slow or too difficult to add much, if anything, to your bottom line. And you'll start to develop a wish list in your head. I wish I had a great irrigation system. I would see such a yield bump if I had decent irrigation. I'd spend so much less time cultivating if I had a good plastic mulch layer. As you continue to build your own sweat equity, your financial resources will slowly expand and provide you opportunities to upgrade. But how do you know where to invest? Well, we'd recommend prioritizing capital purchases that increase your efficiency and or your productive potential, which will help them pay for themselves quickly. Relatedly, labor is likely to be your biggest cost center as you grow, so think about how a capital investment can reduce labor. Think about sizing your purchases just a bit bigger than what you need right now, so you have some upside potential down the road. If you need a 30 horsepower tractor, see if you can afford a 50 horse. If you're going to put up a 72-foot high tunnel, see if you can go to 96. And get really familiar with buying and selling on places like Craigslist. At the end of the year, even if you didn't pay yourself because you reinvested in the farm, you're still building equity and you're still building productive capacity. not to mention minimizing your tax burden. Like it or not, your marketplace is constantly changing, and you have to critically evaluate pretty much everything you are doing in order to determine whether you are leaving money on the table. What's missing? Ask farmers market managers what they would like to see more of at their farmers market. Ask produce managers at grocery stores whether they do any local sourcing. What's trending? Ask local chefs what the next big thing is going to be on their menus this season. Watch celebrity chefs on TV and see what they're talking about. We've seen demand for certain veggies just go nuts. Think about kale a few years ago, and then radicchio, and now microgreens. Once you hear about some new things, ask other farmers if they've ever tried to grow it. Does it yield well? Does it have disease problems? Does it have a decent shelf life? Not every opportunity is an opportunity. As you grow, don't underestimate the potential of wholesale markets. Restaurateurs and retailers know that local food is hot, and many of them may be on the lookout for ways they can get in on the action. They might pay a bit less upfront per unit, but they will often make up for it in volume. Plus, eyeballs are worth something. If they're willing to feature you and your product on their signs or their menus, then their customers become your customers too. Yes, direct-to-consumer is generally going to bring you top dollar. It's also going to build customer loyalty. But be sure to take your transaction costs fully into account. How much are you spending on fuel for deliveries every month? How much are you paying those employees to be sitting at 4 farmers markets per week? Once all that is fully accounted for, wholesale markets might not look so bad. They say that experience is that thing you get right after you really needed it. It's essential to have a peer network of farmers who have gone through the same trials and tribulations you are. Even if they don't have an answer, at least they can sympathize. It's really hard to think of backup plans before you need them, and then to actually write them down so you remember what they were when you thought them up. This is where a farm handbook comes in mighty handy, especially if you have employees who need to know about Plan B or Plan C. No one is an island. Many farmers act like they're lone wolves and fierce independents, but sometimes the universe throws you a bone when you need it the most. You have to be willing to catch it. Accept help when it's offered. Sometimes other people can tell you need help before you even realize it. Finally, there is a time to quit banging your head against the wall. Failure is an inevitable part of life and of farming. Try to make your failures small and accept them as lessons for what not to do next time. Let's look back at what we have covered in this presentation and in this course. First, set an income goal and plan for profitability. What you produce, where you market, and how your business grows all stem from a realistic goal for income. Keep records, make good decisions, and plan for the profitability that you need. Secondly, find good help and keep them. Good help is hard to find, and when you do find it, invest in them so that they feel valued, they feel educated, and they feel loyal to you and your operation. Third, grow your business with your skills and with your demand. It's okay to start small, rather than jumping in with both feet and your entire life savings. Make your mistakes early, preferably on someone else's dime, and grow your skills. Fourth, prioritize your capital investments. Everybody wants land and a tractor. But are those wise investments right up front? What can you afford? What's actually going to pay for itself the fastest? Fifth, constantly evaluate your marketplace. Your marketplace is always changing with taste, with trends, and even with the economy. Keep your eyes open for new niches and better margins. But remember that not every opportunity is really an opportunity. Finally, learn from mistakes and accept help. Stuff happens. And when it does, you're going to feel a lot more peace of mind if you've thought through the situation, or if you know who to call who has already been through it. Thanks so much for your time and attention. I hope some of this resonates now, but if it didn't, come and watch it again in a couple of years and see what you think. If you need to reach me or Rick or Mike about farming and the lessons we've learned, here's one way to do so. Best of luck in your first year and beyond.